Typically, when you're lathe turning, getting chatter on a piece of your work is a bad thing, but proper use of a chatter tool can add a really nice detail to the end grain of your projects. It was a chatter tool that introduced the intricate weave pattern on the top of this lidded box. The business end of a chatter tool consists of a piece of steel that's thin enough that when it contacts your work, it can vibrate up and down, which is what introduces the chatter pattern. Before using the chatter tool the first time, you'll need to sharpen it. It's sharpened like a scraper, with the top of the tool down, very light touch against the grinding wheel. This will leave a small burr on the top of the tool, and you want to leave that burr there to help with cutting action. Chatter tools are designed to be used on the end grain of hardwoods. Before using the chatter tool, you should face that end grain off. I prefer to make these cuts with a bowl gouge, leaving behind a nice smooth surface. Tool rest setup for a chatter tool is different than conventional tools, quite a bit further away, so the tool can cantilever out and have the opportunity to vibrate up and down. Also, a little bit higher than you might normally be used to, but you can change the height setting to affect the look of the chatter that you're making. You should make sure that the tool rest is parallel to the face you're working on. A number of factors affect the look that you'll get from the chatter tool: RPM, how you hold the chisel, feeding left to right or right to left. So now I'll show you some of those different approaches. For this cut, I'm simply poking the sharp V of the chatter tool into the end grain of my material, spacing those cuts across the end grain of the work. Next, I go back and push the sharp point of the V in between the previous cuts. Here's the result of this setup. It's nice to leave a little bit of wood uncut for contrast. For this cut, I'm using the long edge of the tool, moving it from the center of my work out toward the outside, right on the center line. That high-pitched sound tells me I'm getting a good chatter. And here's the result of that cut, a very fine detail. Next setup is similar. This time I'm using the long edge on the right side, pulling the tool from the outside rim of the work in toward the center. Just a slight change in setup, but pretty dramatic change in the look. On this pass, I'm again moving from the outside of the spindle toward the center, but notice that the tool is kind of rolled to the right. I'm using the sharp tip of the V and moving pretty quickly across the end grain here. Here's what we get. Note that this was done at a fairly low RPM. Here, I've repeated the pass, but done it at a much higher RPM, which really changes the look of the resulting chatter. Using a chatter tool is really more of an art than a science, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a great way to add a texture, a very neat look to the end grain of your turning projects.